April 3rd, i.e. exactly 2 days before the Armenia-EU-US format meeting scheduled for April 5th in Brussels, Caliber reported, citing sources in diplomatic circles, that Nicole Pashinyan, Ursula von der Leyen, and Antony Blinken intend to sign numerous agreements in Brussels in the political, economic, and humanitarian spheres to integrate Yerevan into the Euro-Atlantic space and, most importantly, a military pact, unprecedented for CIS countries in the field of security, will be concluded behind closed doors. And, as we announced on April 16, Caliber editorial staff possesses detailed information on how exactly the US and EU will provide military and political support to Armenia. Having analysed the obtained data in detail, we present it to the public. Unfortunately, as we noted earlier, even though both Blinken and von der Leyen, in their telephone conversations with President Aliyev, tried to assure us that the Brussels meeting is not directed against Azerbaijan and will affect only the economic component, facts are stubborn things, and they say the opposite. So, let's move on to the details of Western aid for Armenia. The United States will provide Yerevan with expert support for the Strategic Defense Review and the development of Armenia's new military doctrine. The United States will provide the assistance necessary to significantly develop Armenia's military and defense capabilities and strengthen border control and security, with particular attention to the border with Iran. The United States will send analytical teams to Armenia to conduct an on-site assessment of Air Force and air defense capabilities, taking into account Armenia's integration into the CSTO Joint Air Defense System. The United States will provide funds to Armenia under the Foreign Military Financing (FMF) program to facilitate its access to advanced military equipment and the latest technology. The US Armed Forces will participate in joint military exercises and training with the Armenian Armed Forces to ensure interoperability. The United States will strengthen Armenia's defense capabilities through the International Military Education and Training (IMET) program. The United States will work to accelerate the widespread use of GPS, Global Positioning System technology, throughout Armenia. The European Union will accept an aid package under the European Peace Facility (EPF) in support of the Armenian Armed Forces. This package aims to strengthen Armenia's national security, stability and sustainability in the defense sector. It will also improve operational effectiveness, accelerate compliance with EU and NATO standards, and ensure the interoperability of the Armenian Armed Forces. The assistance package also aims to strengthen the capacity of the Armenian Armed Forces to participate in operations and missions under the EU Common Security and Defense Policy (CSDP). The EU and Armenia will hold regular consultations on defense and security issues. The European Union expresses its support for the decision of the government of Armenia to withdraw the troops of the Border Guard Service of the Federal Security Service of the Russian Federation from Zvartnots International Airport, the Armenian-Iranian border, and all other international border points. The EU and Armenia reviewed the status of Russian Federation military facilities in Armenia, taking into account the current agreement providing for their presence until 2044. The EU and Armenia discussed the need to reduce Yerevan's dependence on Russian military equipment and technology. The EU and Armenia will cooperate to ensure the long-term presence of the EU mission to Armenia, EUME, and expand its functions through a significant increase in staff. The EU will assist Armenia in building defense infrastructure on its border with Azerbaijan, including engineering reinforcements. The EU and Armenia will cooperate on border security and control issues through the border guards of the Armenian National Security Service and the European Union Agency for the Security of External Borders, Frontex. EU and US member states will offer assistance to train and equip Armenia's newly established Foreign Intelligence Service, as well as enhance the capacity and training capabilities of the State Guard Service. An EU-Armenia cyber dialogue will be launched to strengthen the strategic capacity of Armenia's Computer Emergency Response Team, CERT, and Computer Security and Incident Response Team, CSART, US-EU-Armenia. The United States and the European Union will assist Armenia under the Nuclear Deactivation Program, DNPP, in dismantling the Metsamor nuclear power plant, MNPP. Once Metsamor is deactivated, funding will be provided for the development of new nuclear power plants. The United States and the European Union will establish a joint military and defense task force to coordinate the implementation of Armenia's defense and security resilience program. In conclusion, we would like to emphasize a few key points. Recently, the US ambassador to Yerevan, Christine Kvian, announced that the embassy will also have a military advisor who will actively cooperate with the Armenian Ministry of Defense. Armenia has also requested armored ambulances from the US and is likely to receive them soon, which was also confirmed by Ambassador Kvian, although, as we have already noted, on the eve of the meeting in Brussels at various levels, official Baku tried to assure that there is no military component in the US-EU-Armenia negotiations from the word absolutely. As we can see, the reality, as we warned back on 3rd April, turned out to be different. Another important point, which we have not yet mentioned, but which was also agreed upon in Brussels on April 5th, should be highlighted. The EU and the United States have agreed on the supply of lethal weapons to Armenia. Moreover, deliveries of offensive weapons are expected. As a result, Yerevan will receive what the West has not even provided to Georgia and has refused to provide to Ukraine for many years, bringing the Armenian army into full compliance with NATO standards and ousting the Russian military and pro-Russian elements in the Armenia armed forces from Armenia. All these actions point to preparations for Armenia's possible accession to NATO in the medium term. At the same time, the West is opening its arms market for Armenia and is itself financing Armenia's purchase of these weapons. We will provide this information at the appropriate time. Today, Armenia is engaged in an extremely risky game that could end in a great tragedy for it. Nikol Pashinyan is raising the geopolitical stakes in an attempt to win back what he has irrevocably lost, risking his country's stability and safety. Today, April 18th, the US State Department commented on our investigation, calling it disinformation. This document is pure disinformation. Security issues were not on the agenda. We would like to draw your attention to the press release that was adopted jointly with the European Union and Armenia on the results of the trilateral meeting held on April 5th in Brussels. The Brussels meeting, held jointly with the European Union and Armenia, focused only on Armenia's economic sustainability as it seeks to diversify its trade partnership and address its humanitarian needs, including support for Armenia's ongoing reforms in areas such as democracy and the rule of law, the State Department said in a statement. Well, such a reaction was quite expected. However, the editors of Caliber insist on the authenticity of the document that we distributed, based on reliable sources. The State Department's position is predictable. Blaming the spread of disinformation is a well-tested method used around the world to refute inconvenient facts.